Welcome to episode 425. Stan Druckenmiller, from PhD dropout to hedge fund superstar. This is an outline of episode 425. There are 3 reasons why we study Stan Druckenmiller. First, he has a record of 30% annual return over 30 years. Second, he was a partner with George Soros for 12 years. Third, he's the father of FocusTrading. Let us meet Stan Druckenmiller.
So while I started in equities, and that was my bread and butter my first 3 or 4 years in the business, I evolved in other areas. And it's a little bit of back to the future the last 8 or 9 years where I've had to refocus on the equity market. And I also have bearitis because I made my highest absolute returns were all in bear markets. I think my average return in bear markets was well over 50%.
He was born in Pittsburgh in 1953. His father was a chemical engineer. His parents divorced, and he spent most of his childhood in New Jersey and Virginia. In 1975, Druckenmiller earned 2 degrees in English and economics from Bowdoin College. He was 22. He entered a PhD program in economics at the University of Michigan, but dropped out after 1 semester. In 1976, through his father-in-law, he got a job as an oil analyst at Pittsburgh National Bank. Druckenmiller would excel there. In 1980, his marriage ended in divorce. In 1981, he founded Duquesne Capital with $1 million. He was 28. From 1988 to 2000, Druckenmiller was the Superman, running his own Duquesne Fund and also George Soros' Quantum Fund. His return during this period was the best in Wall Street. In just one day, in 1992, betting against the British pound would drop. Druckenmiller and Soros made $1 billion.
Stan Druckenmiller manages Soros's Quantum Fund. I asked him about the events last September.
It was inevitable. It was a conclusion that could not be avoided under any intellectual thought process. And I must say, as the person actually managing the fund, that would have led me maybe to do $2 or $3 or $4 billion. And that was where the combination of experience, courage, whatever you've heard about this man, came into play, because it was he who pushed very, very hard on me to take the position to where we took it, and actually wanted to take it further, but we ran out of time.
Where this equilibrium reached a climax.
It's really a once in a decade, and that's when he is George Soros. That's when he just says, you can't have enough of this. And if there's one thing I've learned from him, is that when you're right and you know something, you really feel it, you can't have enough. And the biggest mistake, if I had to sum up his investment philosophy in one sentence, it's that it's not whether you're right or wrong, you just have to have the max on when you're right, and that's his unique innate ability.
Even though Soros travels constantly, he's still very involved in the day-to-day management of the funds.
He is here maybe a third to a half the time because of his other activities. He's often in Eastern Europe, or places when you're trying to talk to him on the phone, it's very, very scratchy, and it maybe lasts a minute or so a day. The way I look at it is having the greatest financial advisor in history to help create and bounce off ideas on an ongoing basis.
He is the father of FocusTrading. That is, put all your eggs in one basket.
Well, my idea of risk control is a little non-conventional. I like putting all my eggs in one basket and then watching the basket very carefully. I think, I don't know what they teach at Marshall, but at most business schools they teach, I think, a lot of nonsense called risk-adjusted return and diversification. Ouch. As a money manager, if you look at a normal portfolio, most people will make 70–80% of their money that year on 2 or 3 ideas, even though they'll have 30 or 40 things in their portfolio.
On how to trade, on how to develop a contrarian thesis and bet in the second to third innings.
But to answer your question, I'll get a thesis, and I like to buy not in the 0 inning, and maybe not in the first inning, but no later than the second inning. Okay. And I don't really want to pile on in the 3rd or 4th or 5th inning. So I guess examples are the best. One's him, but he was trading very badly, and I was trading very bad. I flew to Pittsburgh because I had Duquesne at the same time, and he blew out my bond position while I was on the plane. But there's a case where we never really averaged up.
In 2011, he closed his Duquesne Fund of 30 years, saying he was unable to meet the high expectation of his clients.
30 years performance, managing outside money, never had a down year. 120 quarters, only 5 were down.
Thank you for quoting the 30-year record. I don't even know how I did that when I look back and I look at today, but I probably made about 70% of my money during that time.
In the last 6 years, Druckenmiller has been trying to solve the coming generation time bomb.
On the blue line is children, age 15 and under, and in the red line is the elderly. And as you can see, the share of government spending going to the elderly has completely rocketed since 1960. In fact, that's frankly a tragedy. These are U.S. poverty rates. When we started out, the elderly were the poverty rate was about 30%. Because of a lot of the government spending and other programs, the poverty rate for the elderly has come down to 9%. The problem is, look at what's happened to the poverty rate of children. It's actually risen from 20% to 23%.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and leave your questions and comments below. My next video will be Stan Druckenmiller, 10 Trading Lessons. Wishing everyone peace and prosperity.